Now, most of my life, I read books of the Buddha, I read books of Ram, and I heard stories about Krishna, Ram. These were the thoughts in the back of my mind. But I had never thought about going to look for a spiritual master such as exists in India, the hundreds of them. I did have the thought of someday leaving my home and going to either like live in a forest or go to the Himalayas or somewhere, like be a renunciate or a sadhu. So I didn't have, these were my inner thoughts, but they were within me. These were my sanskaras. In 1965, about April, I think, my father said at the dining room table at night, about 7 o'clock, in April, I think, in 65. Because Baba was in seclusion in the 1960s due to the accident. Very few people saw him. My father was one of them. And then suddenly my father says at the dining room table, Baba has expressed a desire to meet the rest of the family. He's giving a darshan in Pune in May, and so we are all going there for the weekend. So reluctantly, I agreed to go to Pune to meet Baba, and then I told my mom, I'm going to meet with Baba and pay my respects, and then return right back to Bombay, because I don't want to. They were going to stay there for the weekend. A couple of my dad's patients were coming with us, so I was getting a ride back with one of their cars, because they were going back after one day. So in Pune, we're at the Pune Center. I'm in a hall just like this, sitting, and you've seen it all in that film, the ancient one. There's a dais. We're sitting in the hall like the first row, like where Benaz is sitting, and we're waiting for Baba to arrive because he hasn't come here. He was in MeherBabaLibrary. We're in Pune. No, he was at Guru Prasad. It was in the summer. It was in May 1st, 1965. I remember that incident like it was yesterday. Well, I look out the window because, moved around a bit. I saw people outside in the parking lot now just praying. It was a little frightening. I was about 20 years old, 1965, and it was quite a sight, to see people have that kind of devotion. And then suddenly we heard a car honking, and then everybody got up in the hall. Baba's arrived. When he came through the front door, to the door of the hall, and then he recognized my dad in the waiting line. And I saw this with my own eyes. Baba, there was a look of recognition on Baba's face. The first time I laid my eyes on Baba. And he took both his hands like this, and he put them on my father's face like this. Do you understand? Do you get the significance of that? He put his hands on my father's face like someone holds a child. You've probably seen pictures of Baba doing that to some of his lovers. That means there was a sense of affection. And then later on, he was brought on the dais, and then we all had to file by him, to greet him or to meet with him. And he was sitting on a platform. You've seen it in the ancient one. And as much as I was reluctant to meet him, when I approached him and came in front of him, don't ask me why, I instinctively put my forehead on his bare feet. He was like on a platform at the chest level, and I bowed down to him, and I put my forehead on his feet. which in India is the highest form of appreciation to anybody, because to elder people and all that, we bow down to them like a namaste. And I did that. I felt someone's hand like on my head, like pressing me down. So I don't know. But that's like a moment in time. And then later on, forgot about it and we moved on. And the program was where people read some things and so on. And so we moved on. And later in the afternoon, when the Pune Center program was over, then we went and I got to see Baba at Guru Prasad, which doesn't exist anymore. Guru Prasad, we were like in a living room, like the living room up front. And my family was sitting on a couch, like in a bag, and Baba was sitting in an armchair on one side of the room, and Erach was behind him. I got to tell you something. Baba's skin was so soft. It's like when I put my forehead on his feet, it's like it sinks into like a cushion. And his skin was so white, so fair, like a baby's. He was probably, in 65, was about 71 years old. And I tell you, I've never seen a human being of his magnitude. So I had to bow to that person. I've never bowed to anybody since then, after that. So later on, at Guru Prasad, because I told my dad and my mom that I would go back after I met him. So we had an audience with Baba in private. And then, you know, the thing is, you do not miss Baba's talking and not talking. Because Erach was sitting behind Baba, you know, Baba would make gestures and you could hear Erach's voice, but it would appear like it was Baba talking. So you don't know if Baba's speaking or not. It's almost like how you people are silent, but you can talk, you don't miss it. And then of course, there were like, you know, he talks about everyday things like, how are you, this, that, did you sleep well last night, this, that. He asks questions of the family members and so on. Now I learned from Codec, who was here a couple of years, 3 or 4 years ago. He was one of the people who grew up around Baba, like Sheila Kalchuri. And he said Baba usually sees people with their families, you know, together, because there's a connection with the sanskaras from previous lives. So this went on for a couple of hours. We were just in his presence. And then it was time for me, the friends, patients of my father, they wanted to go. And I was trying to get Baba's attention. You know, like, I want to go now. You say goodbye to somebody before you leave, you just don't walk out of the door. It's disrespectful. But his attention was to Erach to the side. He was ignoring things. And suddenly I said to Baba, I said, I'm going to go now. I got to go now, go back to Bombay. So Baba turns around and looks at me full square in the face, and he gives me this, just like that pain. That was the last time I saw him.